The introduction section of the 7 Strategies framework is meant to generate ideas about what you could include in the introduction of your video resume, or how you may want to introduce yourself. The introduction you decide to use will ultimately depend on your audience and your industry. Remember, just because you write something down doesn't necessarily mean that you'll end up using it in your video resume. This is an evergreen document that you can edit and use as a reference. So here are a few things to consider when deciding how to introduce yourself in a video resume. What is your name? Do you prefer to use your full name or part of your name? For example, Kim or Kimberley, like my name. Is there a way to make your name easier to pronounce or spell? For example, people often forget to add the second E when spelling my name, Kimberley. Have you ever looked at a name like an author's name and thought to yourself, I wonder how you pronounce that? For example, how would you pronounce the last name of the popular author and motivational speaker Simon Sinek? Is it pronounced like the word cynic, or perhaps is it Sinek, or maybe Sinek? Help your audience by taking away the possible embarrassment of not knowing how to say your last name. Do you have a nickname? Do you like to be called by your nickname? Is there a story behind your nickname that would be meaningful to your audience? For example, does it relate to your personal achievements or accomplishments, such as with athletes like Magic Johnson, or musicians like Piano Man, who is Billy Joel? Perhaps you have a particular skill that you've become known for in your personal circle. For example, maybe your friends call you chef because you're always cooking something new. Or maybe you're called yogi because you're obsessed with yoga. Or your friends call you the IT guru because you're the go-to person for solving everyone's IT problems. Bottom line, if your nickname is relevant to the industry you want to work in, or it's meaningful to your story and personality, you may later decide to include it in your video resume. But for now, just write it down. What is your current role or job title? Perhaps you have multiple roles. What is the industry you are currently working in? If you're a student or you recently graduated, what is or what was your program of study? What role or industry are you aspiring to work in? Write them all down. Perhaps writing down certain titles or roles that you're working towards will inspire you. You can later decide what role and or industry to include in your video resume. You may even decide not to include either. For now, just write it all down. Do you speak a second or third language? Would greeting your audience in multiple languages be helpful for your goals? Perhaps you're pursuing a role where being bilingual or multilingual is a definite plus, such as in niche sales roles or in the travel industry, or perhaps a role with a government agency or educational institution. Now take a moment and write down anything you can think of relating to your name that you may want to consider later when it's time to record your video resume. And remember, this is a brainstorming exercise, so writing it down doesn't commit you to it. It just gets it out of your head and onto paper.